Welcome back to the Irish Bandit channel, or if you're new here, welcome to the channel. I, as always, am your host, the one, the only, the second Irish Bandit. Last week, we looked at my 5 best moments from professional wrestling in the year 2022. If you didn't check out that video, you can go check it out right here. We talked about some great things that happened in the year 2022 when it came to professional wrestling in WWE, AEW, mostly those two companies, but you know, there's a lot of good things that happened in the year for every company. That being said, there were some pretty nasty things that happened this year in professional wrestling as well, and we're unfortunately going to talk about that today. I'm counting down my 5 worst moments in professional wrestling this year, and we're going to kick it off with one of the worst things that happened. This kind of happened between both companies, mostly in AEW though, which led to a rise for a term we all got sick and tired of after a while. We're talking about injuries and interim championships. The list of injured superstars in both WWE and AEW this year was a long one. Some of the names included are Natalya, who was just injured recently. Had to be written off with for nose surgery. R-Truth tore his quad during a match. Randy Orton, he's been out since May of this year, and it doesn't look like he'll be back anytime soon. Rey Mysterio recently injured his ankle. Rick Boogs also torn a quad at WrestleMania this year. Robert Roode's been out with an injury for a while. Cody Rhodes tore his pectoral muscle before Hell in a Cell and still continued on with the match with Seth Rollins. Like, big ups to him. Let's see what else. Becky Lynch, she had a really bad injury this year too, but she's back now, thankfully. Becky Lynch is my favorite woman on the WWE roster currently, right now. She's fantastic, killing it. But anyway, some other notable injuries this year include Adam Cole, CM Punk, Hangman Adam Page. Page and Cole both suffering concussions. Adam Cole has been out since June, since AEW's Forbidden Door pay-per-view. CM Punk, when he shortly after he won the AEW Championship, we're getting to the second part of this countdown entry. After he won the AEW Championship, injured his foot and had to be off TV for months on end, which prompted an interim champion. Now, I come from the old school of professional wrestling where if you can't defend your title, you should be forced to vacate it, not this interim garbage that we've been seeing pop up in AEW. We haven't seen it in WWE, but we've seen it mainly in AEW. I'm not a fan of this whole interim thing. I'm glad that after Thunder Rosa's injury, when Toni Storm became interim champion and then Jamie Hayter won the title off of her at Full Gear, they kind of said, given the injury, the severity of Thunder Rosa's injury, she has agreed to forfeit the title. Jamie Hayter is the full women's champion. I love seeing that. I love Jamie Hayter. I think she's fantastic, and I can't wait to see Thunder Rosa and her square off in the ring for the title. I'm kind of hoping that Jamie Hayter wins, but if Thunder Rosa wins, I wouldn't be opposed to that either. I'm a fan of both. But it was just all these injuries that happened this year. It was just like a plague, especially with, if you take a look at Hangman Adam Page and Adam Cole, both suffering concussions this year. Adam Cole suffering one that has kept him out of the ring since June at Forbidden Door in the Fatal 4-Way match for the New Japan Pro Wrestling IWGP Heavyweight Championship. And Adam Page earlier in October in his title match against Jon Moxley, where he took a King Kong clothesline and landed on his head and suffered a concussion. It was one of the nastiest moments I've seen in professional wrestling. So I'm hoping for 2023 that nobody gets injured, everybody stays safe, because that's one of the things. I don't care how I feel about a wrestler, about the wrestling ability, how I feel about them. I would feel crushed if they were injured and had to retire. Like, going on a little bit of a opinion here, Jinder Mahal is one of my favorite wrestlers. I don't think he ever should have held the WWE Championship. That was a political move for inroads into the um, into the India market, even though Jinder Mahal was born in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. But there's a huge untapped market in India, and I understand that. I don't think Jinder Mahal was the way to go about that. Either way, if Jinder Mahal were to come out on social media and say, "Hey guys, fortunately I tore my ACL and I'll be out of action until 8 months from now," I'd be like, "Oh crap, heal up soon." It doesn't. How I feel about someone goes out the window when they're injured. Like, I had a nice little conversation with Rider Pride 639 about this. It wasn't about wrestling; it was more about hockey. Getting off a bit of a tangent here, but Chris Letang, player for my favorite team, the Pittsburgh Penguins, he suffered a second stroke earlier, just like a month ago, and had to be put on the DL. And Rider Pride, he's a Montreal Canadiens fan. Montreal Canadiens are not my favorite team. They're not even one of my favorite teams. But even he said, rivalries go out the window when something like that happens. And I absolutely agree with him. That's the truth. If someone on the Montreal Canadiens, if it was part of someone on the Canadiens had a stroke, I would be like, "Oh my God, I hope they get better soon." It's so sad to hear. I hope they get better, and if they got better, it'd be like, great. And I mean, Chris Letang now is playing once again for the Pittsburgh Penguins, so I'm happy to see that. Anyway, back to professional wrestling. Thank you for letting me get that off my chest. So let's just talk about the fourth entry of one of the worst things that happened this year, and that was the walkout of Sasha Banks and Naomi. Earlier in May, it was reported that Sasha Banks and Naomi had a dispute with WWE management about the direction of their characters, which prompted them at a taping of Raw to drop the women's tag team titles on the desk of John Laurinaitis, former talent VP of talent for the WWE. He's since been relieved of his duty after something that happened in the second thing we'll talk about, the second biggest thing we talked about that was the worst. They left the women's tag team titles on his desk, and they walked out of the company and have not been back since then. Now, while very little has come out about what's going to happen with Naomi, there's been a lot of talk about what's been happening with Sasha Banks' real name, Mercedes Varnado. Since the walkout in May, she has filed a whole bunch of trademarks for Mercedes Monet Talks, Statement Maker. I think those were the three big ones. And there's been talk where she has been talking with New Japan Pro Wrestling Stardom to go work the New Japan show Wrestle Kingdom 14 in January. Now, this brings up a lot of issues because, as far as I know, and I may need to be corrected here, but Sasha Banks is still under contract with the WWE. Now, I've heard a lot of talk recently saying that Sasha Banks' contract is set to expire on January 1st. I don't know the validity of these. They are coming from respected sources within the wrestling news community, so it could be true. You might have to take it with a pinch of salt, but I think this is a black eye on the WWE, especially during that point, because this was still when Vince McMahon was in charge, and you could tell that there was no real creative direction for Sasha or Naomi, especially if they were going through with what they said they were going to go through, with having the tag team champions at this point wrestle for separate women's singles championships. I don't remember the exact dynamics of what was going on. I think Naomi was going to wrestle for the Raw Women's Championship, while Sasha wrestled for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Like I said, I don't know. I could be wrong there, so somebody will need to correct me if I'm wrong on that one. But, since Vince McMahon's retirement, which we'll talk about a little bit, since Vince McMahon's retirement, there has been word of Sasha and Naomi talking with the new regime within the WWE, but nothing has come of it. And I think that a lot of it comes down to money, because Sasha is a woman who knows what she is worth and wants to get what she is worth, and I think she's owed what she is worth. A lot of people might disagree with me on that one. That's okay. You can disagree with me all you want. It doesn't change the fact that Sasha Banks deserves what she is owed and deserves what she wants to be paid, because she is a star. Like, look at her on The Mandalorian. I can't think of any other WWE female wrestler who would go do something like that. She went and did it, and now she's making a bigger name for herself within the entertainment medium. So I say good on Sasha for holding out for more money, and if she can get more money from New Japan Pro Wrestling, fantastic. That could lead to other opportunities within AEW, which would be, oh my God, have someone like Sasha Banks on the AEW roster. Think of the matches she could have with Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, Hikaru Shida. Holy Shida. So if WWE finally come to terms with Sasha and are able to work out an agreement for her to return, fantastic. If she goes to work for New Japan Pro Wrestling, AEW, Impact even, that's awesome too. At least she knows what she's worth. Coming in at number 3, this moment never should have happened, and I highly condemn Conrad Thompson and anybody who had a hand in this farce. This delegitimized, in my opinion, and I'm getting mad over this because it delegitimized the legacy of the career of Ric Flair when he put on this farce. I'm talking about Ric Flair's last match. Okay. If I seem a little ragey here, you'll have to understand that Ric Flair is one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. He's one of those guys that I consider to be one of the total packages in professional wrestling. He had the ability on the mic. He could go out with a broom and have a fantastic match with that. When he was in his prime, let me preface it that by saying when he was in his prime, he could go out, wrestle a broom, and take it to a 5-star classic in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. So when something like this came along, when he had the perfect send-off at WrestleMania a couple years ago, again, well, not a couple years ago, it's like WrestleMania 24. So like over 10 years ago, when he had the last match with Shawn Michaels, and just that perfect match. Like Ric Flair was well beyond his prime at this point, and Shawn Michaels was, amazingly, for someone who had been retired for 4 years, Shawn Michaels came back, and it was like he never left. And I think he did better in his second run than he did in his first run. But to have a match that excellent, and then to go out on Raw the next night and have that goodbye segment that was just still to this very day is so emotional, especially when the Four Horsemen come down to the ring. It was just the perfect send-off for Ric Flair, who has such an indelible legacy in the WWE. And yeah, he went to TNA. He kind of bastardized everything with his TNA run, getting back in the ring with that. But he never set foot back in the ring after his TNA run was finished. So when I heard this year that Ric Flair wants to have one more match, I'm like, yeah, right, that's never going to happen. And then I see these videos of him and Jay Lethal in the ring together, training. I'm echoing the sentiments of his daughter, Charlotte Flair, when she says, "Dad, what the WTF?" It's like, yeah, Rick, WTF, what are you doing? You just came, well, not just, but you had a medical scare a couple years ago, I should say, not a couple weeks ago. You had a medical scare a couple years ago that you almost died from. And you're doing this? I don't care if it's a tag team match. From everything that I've heard, I didn't watch this match, okay? I couldn't watch this match because I didn't want to see a 74-year-old man die in the middle of the goddamn ring. And again, I say to Conrad Thompson and everyone involved, if Ric Flair would have died in that match, it would have been on your goddamn heads for it. Excuse me, one moment. I would like to apologize for that little outburst. I get a little passionate about things like this. So, again, I apologize for my outburst. But no, I think Ric Flair should not have done this. Ric Flair should not have taken part in this. Whoever suggested it to Ric Flair shouldn't have even said it or thought it. Like, no. I don't think Ric Flair will be satisfied until he dies in the ring. And nobody wants to see that. So please. He's come out since, I think maybe I'll have one. No, Ric Flair, don't have any more matches. Go be a grandfather to your grandkids with Conrad and his wife, and if Charlotte and Andrade want to have kids, go be a grandfather to them. Do not, please, for the love of God, do not get back in the ring anytime soon, Rick. Please. Someone else who should have got out of wrestling a long time ago did so in 2022, although it was under dubious circumstances, let's just say. We've been calling for something like this for years, and it finally happened. Well, maybe it shouldn't have happened this way, but Vince McMahon finally retired amid a bunch of allegations, and it was basically the fall of Vince McMahon. In mid-2022, reports from the Wall Street Journal came out stating that Vince McMahon was under investigation from the WWE Board of Directors for paying millions of dollars in hush money to a woman he had an alleged affair with, who was part of the WWE staff, and he paid a lot of money to keep quiet over an affair. This would start a snowball effect that would go on until July, when Vince McMahon sent out a pretty cryptic tweet saying at 77 years old it was time for him to retire. Now, we as wrestling fans figured that Vince McMahon would be the kind of guy who would die at his desk. He was never going to retire, because he even said so himself. He was never going to retire. He was going to always be part of the WWE in one way or the other. So to hear this, and then to hear that not only has he stepped down as chairman of the WWE, he's also stepped down as creative head. And even before that, he even said that he was stepping down. Stephanie would be coming on as interim chairwoman, even after she said she was going to be taking a sabbatical from WWE. Then a couple weeks later, she's back as chairwoman or chairperson or whichever. And then in July, it was just the tweet heard around the world when Vince McMahon said he was retiring. This would lead to Stephanie taking over as co-CEO with Nick Khan. She would be permanent chairwoman of WWE. Nick Khan would remain on as president, and Triple H would step in as head of creative for the WWE. This is a scenario we've been waiting for as wrestling fans for years. Unfortunately, it had to come under these circumstances. But Vince McMahon, see, the thing is, recently it has come out that Vince McMahon feels that he was given bad advice to step down from the WWE because of all these sexual assault allegations, all the hush money he paid out, which I think totaled something like $20 million he paid out to women over the years. He's having new allegations brought up. Old allegations have been coming up from former WWE referee Rita Chatterton. She was an official in the early 80s, I should say, who allegedly, I will preface that by saying allegedly, Vince McMahon assaulted her in his limo. So all these new allegations are coming to light about Vince McMahon, but he feels that he was receiving bad advice. No, what would be bad advice is anybody telling Vince McMahon he should come back, honestly and truthfully. Now, Vince McMahon does still own controlling shares of WWE stock, but that doesn't mean he can come back right away. It would have to go to the board of directors. And everything that I've heard from all the news sources is that nobody wants Vince McMahon back. Morale in the locker room is the highest it's ever been with Triple H in charge, because now you don't have Vince McMahon micromanaging everything. He was in control of the boardroom, he was in control of creative, he was in control of everything, but now you have Stephanie and Nick Khan taking care of the boardroom, while Triple H takes care of creative. So we're going to have to see how this one plays out, and if Vince McMahon does try to return, if there's going to be any attempt to keep him out of the WWE, if he tries, if he finally says, oh, maybe retiring was the right thing. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Before we get into number one, there was a late breaking news story. I'm going to touch on it quickly. It was the termination of Mandy Rose's contract from the WWE because of stuff that she was posting. I don't remember the name of it, but stuff that she was posting on a paid subscription site that didn't really mesh with the WWE's image, I guess you could say. I, I've been seeing a lot of stuff about this, and I don't think anybody's in the wrong here. But only thing I'll say about this is if Mandy Rose is getting banked, good on her. Like, keep it up. So, no one's at fault here, but Mandy Rose, like I said, Mandy Rose, do your thing. I'm all for it. Okay. The worst thing that happened in professional wrestling this year had to have come from AEW, and this is still a messy situation even all these months later. You know what I'm talking about. Brawl Out. Following AEW's All Out pay-per-view in Chicago of this year, they held a media scrum for the media, of course, which involved CM Punk going on a long diatribe about the locker room, the current feeling of the locker room, where he just laid in to a lot of superstars with an expletive-filled rant that I can't repeat here. But afterwards, he said something along the lines of, if anybody's got a problem, they can take it up with me. And that's exactly what Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks did. They took it up with Punk afterwards, which led to a big old brawl between the four of them, which involved Ace Steel biting Kenny Omega. I think something happened to CM Punk's dog, Larry, where a door was kicked in and he had some teeth knocked out. That's not cool. Honestly and truthfully, I don't care who you are, but who's in the right or wrong here. Larry got hurt. That ain't cool. But it led to a whole bunch of suspensions and a whole bunch of titles being stripped because the night of All Out, the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, the Elite, they were the inaugural Trios Tag Team Champions, or Trios Champions, I should say, and CM Punk defeated Jon Moxley for the AEW Championship. The following Wednesday, I was going to say the following night, I'm still thinking about WWE. The following Wednesday on Dynamite, Tony Khan came on TV and stripped everyone of their titles and suspended CM Punk and the Elite for an indeterminate amount of time. CM Punk has not come back yet. The Young Bucks and Kenny Omega have, and they've been in the midst of an excellent Best of 7 series with the Death Triangle over the Trios Championships. But just the ramifications of this, everything does not seem as rosy as it once was within the AEW. I've always heard the thing of the grass is greener on the other side. I've always said the grass is greener where you water it. So make of that what you will. But the whole Brawl Out situation is just out of control. And I'm saying this as a fan of CM Punk. If he doesn't come back, I'm not going to be upset. If he comes back, great. That'll be fantastic. If he comes back to AEW, if he comes back to WWE, they'll, just to kind of jab at Tony Khan there. Great. If he doesn't come back, I won't be upset if he doesn't come back. Honestly and truthfully, I think he's, he may have slowed down a couple steps because of his 7-year absence after his WWE exodus. But I think the summer of Punk could have been a little better for AEW. I mean, his return at Rampage was one of the most fantastic things I've ever seen. The hot Chicago crowd having it in the United Center, just even from the very beginning of Rampage with the CM Punk chants, everybody knew it was coming. It's like Punk said, it was the worst kept secret in professional wrestling, but it drew. It was a major draw for AEW, and Punk did a lot of great things in his 1 year with AEW, and then it seemed like once he won the AEW championship the first time, it all just kind of went to hell after that. He broke his foot, had to relinquish the title, and then when he didn't have to relinquish the title, but when he broke his foot, he had to go get surgery done. Jon Moxley stepped in as interim champion, again, cycling back to our 5th entry here. Jon Moxley became the interim champion, and then you had the situation where Moxley unified the titles in that head scratcher of a match. It only lasted like 3 minutes and then it was over. But I saw the direction they were going for the All Out main event, and I thought the segment with CM Punk and Ace Steel leading up to that was fantastic, even though Ace Steel dropped an F-bomb on live TV, which is a no-no. still to this very day. But I thought that was a fantastic segment, and then everything just kind of went to hell after All Out. But I mean, now we're looking at a new direction for AEW with MJF as the world champion. I think that is going to be a great run coming up to the bidding war of 2024. But could have we gotten there without Brawl Out? But what do you think the worst moments of 2022 were? Let me know in the comments section down below. I'd really love to read your opinion on this. While you're down there, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that. In the description, you're going to see a link to all the ways you can help support this channel. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, and Reddit. You can pick up your Irish Bandit merchandise from my Irish Bandit shop on redbubble.com. You can now pick up your paperback copy of my very first novel, Shade Falling. I'm so happy that I can finally say that I have a paperback copy of my book available for sale. You can also get the Kindle version as well if you like having an e-reader, but if you're like me and you like a physical copy in your hands, you can definitely pick it up now. It is $12.99 on Amazon.com. Prices differ from whichever Amazon you go to in your region. So if you make a purchase from Amazon Canada, it's going to be about $17, but still, it's well worth it. And yeah, you can go pick it up right now. And you can also buy me a coffee as well. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. If you're already subscribed, tap the bell and you'll be notified whenever a brand new video goes live. We got a couple more videos coming for this year. I'm going to have my 2022 year in review coming up next week. No video on Thursday. Year in review coming up next week. And then sometime next week, it probably won't be next Thursday, but it's going to be sometime next week. I'm going to talk about an update coming to the channel as of as of January. There are too many months with J in them. We need to end that. No, I'm kidding. But yeah. So yeah, we're almost done 2022. So yeah, let's make it a good one. So I will talk to you again very, very soon.